Hello, and welcome to another little short video from me, Sam. Today we're going to talk about money management for students in particular, and how we can best utilise the situation. I know it can be hard because we get our living allowance from the UK government, and it might be under so we can't afford to live on it, essentially. So our rent is more than what we get or receive, and then we have to live on top of that. This is why so many students have to work in order to afford their rent, and in this current climate or situation, some students aren't able to pay their rent. So, but how in a normal sort of student year can we make the most out of our budget? So we get a fixed sum or a lump sum every term. And that's about every 3 or 4 months. And then what we need to do, as soon as we get that lump sum, we need to break that down into a monthly or weekly figure on what we can spend. Why do we do this? This tells us how much we can spend on certain products and areas and what money we have left to play with. So this requires budgeting. So say if you get £300, all metaphorical, you get £300, it's got to last you 3 months. That's £100 a month for simple maths. If it's £1,000, it's probably £333.33 recurring. So, and that's what you've got to live off per month. And out of that, you've got to pay your rent, you've got to pay your food, your bills, any beer money that you want, any social money that you want to come out of it, has to all come out of that budget. And if you simply haven't got enough, how are you going to make up the rest? If you've got savings, bits like that. So it's really important to budget. And the top tips for budgeting are to track your expenses. Every purchase you make, write it down. It can be in a little book, it can be in an Excel spreadsheet, or if you pay for everything on card, Monzo and Starling, they'll categorise it for you. However, the problem is, paying for things on card, it doesn't have the same psychological effect as paying it with cash. People find it harder to part with cash than they do paying on card because they're physically handing over money. With a card, you don't really see that amount leave. You just see it on a statement. So to budget, track your spending. Track it really, even if it is £1, just track it, write it down. And at the end of each week, look back at what you've spent and then go, right, where am I unnecessarily spending money? Where can I cut it out and where can I spend more on? So once you've done that, for the first few weeks, it will take you a while to get into this, but you need to proportion a good amount to food, rent and bills. They're your 3 sort of main areas that you need to live, and then you can start working outside of that. So track your spending, know what you've got to spend, and know how much you've got to spend. Understand your living costs and allowance. So if your weekly shop is £30, say £40, your shop is £40 and you need that amount, so what else does it have left? And then break it up into areas. So once you've got your overall budget, break it up into areas. This might take you a week or 2. So that you spend £40 on a weekly shop, you spend £20 on a night out, you spend £20 with friends in a restaurant. Allocate this and then don't go over it. But be sure to measure it, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And if you can't manage it, you can't see where you're overspending, because the problem with spending is the fact that if we don't see it, it doesn't really happen. So we never really check our bank statements. Leads me on to another point. So first one is budget. Second one is your loan. Obviously, we get a lump sum. Don't just blow it all at once. Pay your rent off. A lot of rents come out termly, and they do that. If you're still paying per month, allocate that out into a different account or leave it there and move money out. So you've got your rent money. You need somewhere to live. So if your rent comes out termly, great, pay it all off in one go, if you can. If not, and it comes out monthly or weekly, then allocate that termly until you get your next loan. Allocate that amount of money of rent into an account and leave it there, and do not touch it. Do not touch it whatsoever. That's for you to keep a roof over your head. Bills. As a student, we don't really understand how much bills cost until we actually get in the house. But, proportion about 10, go above what you think you might need, £10, £15 a week, £20 a week, and put that in your rent account. And by having a separate account, you understand that you don't touch that account. It's purely there to keep the money that you need to live. So bills, put it in there. Everything comes out of there. Similar date, first of the month, end of the month, middle of the month, wherever it may be. Keep it in there, and then you've got it. If you overestimate on bills, you'd rather have too much than not enough. Because in the summer you will use a lot less heating. Whereas in winter you will use more heating, so it will even out if you're staying in the same house. And it's always good to pay into this account over the summer period as well. So if you're still working, keep putting money in there. You can obviously keep filling your rent account up. Even if you're not living there, it's still good to keep boosting it up. Food. As a house, I always say try and buy it, but obviously that leads to complications as to who might use more pasta. So even if you are buying for yourself, always try and buy in bulk. And the reason why I say this is because your non-perishable items like pasta, toilet roll, kitchen roll, tins, everything like that. If you go to a wholesaler's, it's usually cheaper than going to Tesco's. It's usually cheaper than going to Asda's, Morrison's, all these kind of places, and you get more for your money. And then you can, as long as you can store it, it's absolutely fine. And obviously, it saves you time again because you're not having to go out and go to the shop again. So make sure that non-perishable items, try and buy in bulk and store. And with perishable items, so like your veg and bits like that, head to farmers markets. Allocate yourself a budget. And when you go shopping, always take cash. And it might seem like a faff, but I guarantee if you take cash, you'll always spend less than what you do on card. There is a study on this. Somebody did a study and said people that had to hand over cash physically spent less because they don't want to hand over that amount of cash they would on card. Also, never go shopping when you're hungry. False. You'll go in and buy everything. So never go shopping when you're hungry. Bulk buy items. It's usually cheaper. And try and hit the reduced sort of times, if you can. But you can figure them out per supermarket and get good deals. But if you've got a car, get yourself to the wholesalers. It makes sense. Even if you have to pay for like a discount card, signing on fee, which most of them don't charge anymore. But if they do, it's £5-10. Pay it, and I guarantee you'll get that back if you just keep popping in. Next, once you've got your rent sorted and bills in an account, you have your food allocated, then you've got spending money. You've got money for you. And this is important. You should never neglect yourself. You should always set yourself an amount that you can spend on whatever you wish. Now, whether that's food, going to doing activities, restaurants, spending it with friends, it could be anything, but you need to set yourself an amount. And that amount should be, something that you can do comfortably, but not excessive. Because obviously, if you spend, £100 a night, say, going out, you are then just, you're pretty much just burning that cash. So make sure you allocate yourself an amount, and then after that, always try and save some now. I know many students are really hard pushed, but actually, if you manage to get into the habit of saving while you're at university, you'll pay dividends after. And obviously, if you save while you're at university, if you manage to save some of your loan and have a job, earn on top of that, then obviously you can save more. And if anything goes wrong, so say you have an unexpected big bill, you can pay for that. Say one of your loan amounts is lower than it normally is, you can cover that with the amount you've saved. And you can start to be really intuitive with the money you've saved. You can then start to put it in different pots. For instance, you can put it in NS&I premium bonds, which is where you don't lose any money, but you have the option of earning more money. You can put it in your cash ISAs. And if you're savvy, you can look at investing, but I don't recommend that until you've researched it or done anything about it. That's a whole different topic. But what I'm trying to instill in you here is to save that money, and then, say you want to buy a bigger purchase one month, you have that amount, you have that allowance where you go, right, I can have a bit more me time, I can spend a little bit extra here because I've saved. But if you don't save, you can't do that. For instance, you want to buy some luxury goods, from the supermarket. You want some salmon or something like that, whatever it might be. You can actually because you've saved, you can actually go and buy it. And it feels something. So they're my top tips for budgeting and student money management. So just to go through them again, set yourself a budget. Write everything down of what you spend. So total your write down what your income is, and then write down your expenses for each week, and then see obviously where you spend the most and where you spend the least. And if you're spending the most on unusual items, take that out. Don't spend it. Get your loan. Obviously it goes into your student bank account. If you can, leave your rent in that account and then have a different account for your spending money. Never touch your rent account for spending money. Figure out how much rent you owe per term and don't go below that. Overestimate your bills. So, say your bills might be £10 a week, estimate £15 to £20 a week. You'd rather have more in there than not enough in there, because it's always harder to find more money than it is to make money up. So you can always take money out at the end of the year if you've got it spare. So overestimate on your rent. Food, always take cash if you can. Set yourself a budget before you go in. Try and buy in bulk. If you can't buy in bulk, obviously buy only what you need, and don't go shopping when you're hungry. Finally, savings. I know as students it can be hard to live, but if you can save something while you're at university, you can then treat yourself to something. You can put that into your savings account. So after university, you've built up a nice pot of cash, and you can say, that can be your rent for the first couple of months after university. It could be towards something else. Anything. There's some great pots out there where you can actually try and earn some money but not losing it. As I've said, NS&I premium bonds is a good way for you to stash that cash and it potentially earn something. And there are better vehicles, but in terms of safety, that is a really good one. Hope this has been useful. Sorry it's a bit everywhere. Getting used to these YouTubes. Obviously, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, student-it, and I'll keep posting these out during the crisis. But stay safe.